morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, we're going to be taking a look at Weezing. Now, we did have a look at both Roxy and coughing the other day. Yes, they are going to be very relevant. Yes, I did just have to stop recording to cough, which was kind of weirdly timed. And they're going to be very relevant. We'll talk about them in a moment as we go. And of course, we've got a Weezing that we're playing at the moment, which is frankly awesome. I'm seeing a lot of success. So there's already a lot going for this Weezing. Let's have a gander, shall we? So starting off then, if we have a little bit of a look at the basics, we got 100 HP. 100 HP is not great for a stage 1. Just putting that out there. Similarly, weakness to Psychic kind of sucks. Mewtwo and Mew is probably going to be amazing post-rotation. And not only is that Psychic type, but that will also make a lot of other people play Psychic type to hit it for weakness. They'll be hitting you for weakness. Having said that, you're a Psychic Pokemon, so you're going to be hitting Mewtwo and Mew for weakness. So that's not too bad here. And we got a retreat cost of 2. Retreat cost of 2 kind of sucks, but we do have Beware to give yourself free retreat, so that's alright. Being a Psychic Pokemon means you got Malamar to accelerate a little bit of energy, and it means you got Spell Tag to drop a bit of damage when you get KO'd, so, you know, not too bad. But it's not the basics why we're playing this, ladies and gentlemen. It's the ability and kind of the attack. The ability, and stop me if this one sounds a little bit familiar, if this Pokemon is discarded from your hand with the effect of Roxy, put 1 damage counter on each of your opponent's Pokemon. Ooh. Now that's interesting. And for anyone that might have forgotten, that is the exact ability of the coughing from this set. Coughing has literally the exact same ability. When it's discarded from your hand using Roxy, you put 1 damage counter on each of your opponent's Pokemon. At this stage, I should remind you about Roxy. Roxy is a new supporter card that allows you to discard up to 2 Pokemon from your hand, and for each one discarded, you draw 3 cards. So clearly the goal here is discard coughing or Weezing. Yay! Cheeky damage. And one of the coolest things here is you've just got twice as many options. Now, instead of having 4 Pokemon in your deck you can discard with Roxy to do the damage, you've got 8. Which means it's more likely you're going to have them when you play Roxy. Now, the other thing is, in my coughing video, I said a very silly thing, for which I'm very sorry. I suggested using Lure Ball to recover your coughing. Now, clearly that's dumb, because I also told you in the video, the Lure Ball lets you flip 3 coins, and for each heads, you can grab yourself an evolved Pokemon and put it into your hand from your discard pile. Well, coughing isn't an evolved Pokemon, but Weezing is. So the way I like to think about it is, I foresaw that Weezing was going to have this ability, and I was just a few days early. Either way, this ability makes Roxy significantly better. And Roxy's amazing, right? When Roxy works, you're drawing 6 cards and doing 2 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon. That's phenomenal. And I'm not going to repeat everything I said in the Coughing and Roxy video. I'm just going to link it in the description. But one of the things I will tell you is this opens a door for actual donks, where you go first and your opponent doesn't get a turn. So doing this and then using something like a Pheromosa GX that can do 30 and attack going first, that will get something like a Ditto Prism Star. Or you could be playing around with Lieutenant Surge's strategy. And I mean, if you can, and it's going to be very difficult to pull off, but if you can use Lieutenant Surge's strategy for double Roxy's discarding 4 coughing/Weezing, you're putting 4 damage counters on each of your opponent's Pokemon. That alone will KO a Ditto Prism Star, but it's also the equivalent of 4 turns of Shrine of Punishment, but to everything, not just to EXs and GXs. To be clear, it's not actually going to be as difficult as it might seem, because remember, you play Surge, then you play Roxy's and draw 6, and you do need the second Roxy's and the 3rd and 4th coughing/Weezing, but it's going to be much easier to draw them because you've already played the first Roxy. I love this ability. This ability is really, really fun. The other thing I really like about having the ability on a Weezing you can't start with Weezing. Weezing's a stage 1. So if you're playing a non-Weezing deck and you just want to be able to use Roxy and do the extra damage, Weezing is here. To be clear, right, as a Roxy's Pokemon, Weezing is better than Coughing. It can be grabbed from the discard with Lure Ball, and you cannot start with it. Because the last thing you want is to play Coughing and Weezing just for Roxy, then end up starting with a Coughing, which you've got to try and get out the active. And even when you get it out the active, you've now got a Coughing on your bench. And you don't want Coughing on your bench, you want it in your hand, ready to discard with Roxy's. So, for this ability, Weezing is better. So what about the attack then? Well, the attack for 1 Psychic, 1 Colorless Energy, does 90 damage. Discard this Pokemon and all cards attached to it. Now, that's a translation we've got from the lovely Antoine Boulet at the moment. And the wording here is extremely important. Because you discard the Pokemon. You do not knock out the Pokemon. Discarding is not the same as knocking out. That means your opponent doesn't take a prize. And you lose a Weezing, and you lose a Coughing underneath it, and you lose the energy. I get all of this, I do. But it means that you can then discard it, and you leave something else in the active. Maybe you use something like Lily's Pokédoll that we saw the other day. You put it down as it's basically Clefairy Doll, alright? It's Clefairy Doll. The only difference is that it gets put on the bottom of your deck, rather than discarding it when you get rid of it, for instance. Other than that, it's the same. So that's kind of cool. And that's what you can do here. It's really, really fun. Now, you're losing a lot. You've got to get up into a stage 1. You've got to attach 2 energy. I understand all of this. But you then don't give up a prize. So let's say it's quite late on in the game, and you've got this and a couple of Pokédoll, and there's, say, a couple turns left, and your opponent needs to take 2 prizes to win. You discard this and discard the next one and just leave all the Clefairy Doll out, and there's nothing your opponent can do. It's kind of like a hit and run Pokemon, except instead of flicking to the bench, you have to discard it, which is kind of awkward. Now, to be fair, if we look at other hit and run Pokemon, you got stuff like Hitmonchan. Hitmonchan does 30 damage, hit and run. This does 90. So okay, you're discarding rather than switching to the bench, but you're also doing thrice the amount of damage. That seems like a fairly good trade-off. Now, in terms of the damage you're doing, 90 isn't great. The good news is you'll get Jirachi, even though Jirachi does resist you. And you'll be getting all the evolving Pokemon, even stage 1s. I mean, we looked at Prinplup earlier, and Prinplup's sitting there with 80 HP. Yeah, you're getting him as well. So yeah, you're doing a decent amount of damage. And there's stuff out there like Malamar, although to be fair, you're hitting Malamar for weakness. So, you know, you'd be getting it if you were doing 50. The thing is, you're not getting enough, I don't think. Now, you are hitting Psychic Weakness, which is a decent weakness. I mean, the one that springs to mind immediately here is Naganadel. Naganedel's got 130 HP, but a weakness to Psychic, so you'll get a fairly straightforward KO on Naganadel. This is alright. It's not an amazing attack. It's alright. But the other thing we need to think of with Weezing, and it's a very important consideration, we've already got the Weezing from Unbroken Bonds, one with the amazing ability whereby if it's sitting in the active, you put 1 damage counter on each of your opponent's basic Pokemon between turns. That is, after your turn, after theirs, etc. And then for 2 colorless energy, it does 40 to the active, 20 to each of your opponent's bench Pokemon with any damage counters on. It's a good Pokemon at spreading damage, and honestly, it's seeing quite a lot of play, and it's seeing a fair amount of success. And the rule, unfortunately, is that you can only play 4 Weezing. Doesn't matter what kind of Weezing, so even though these are different Weezing, they're still Weezing, you're only allowed to put 4 of them in your deck. So you do have to make a choice here. The more of these Weezing you play, the fewer of the Unbroken Bonds Weezing you're allowed to play. It's not the end of the world. I think they are different enough that you're not going to be playing them much together. But it is slightly annoying that you've got to make that choice. The fact of the matter is, as an attacker, it's underwhelming. But the ability here, I love it. It works so well with Roxy, it's better than Coughing as a Roxy Pokemon. The only exception, and I don't think it's a terribly strong argument, Coughing does have 60 HP, so it can be searched out and put in your hand using Professor Round's Lecture, which might be relevant, but then you're using Professor Round's Lecture this turn to set up Roxy's next turn. It's a clunky, inelegant way of doing things. Either way, I'm giving this Weezing 4 Wassies. I think it's going to see play, I really do. I think this Weezing is going to see some play, some success, some love. I think it is the best Pokemon we've got for Roxy's. The attack is fine, the attack will see a bit of love and a bit of play, but really here, Roxy's is good, the ability is good, and I've explained why it's better on this. But I'd very much like to know what you think, so let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassiePlays, where we talk about a whole bunch of games that don't even have any Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.